Welcome back, everyone. Every story you've ever read is being told to you by someone, even when that someone is invisible. The voice deciding what you know, what you don't, and how close you get to a character's mind is called the narrator. And believe it or not, the type of narrator a writer chooses isn't just a stylistic flourish. It's a linguistic decision about pronouns, perspective, and trust. Today, we're breaking down every major types of narrator, how to spot them in seconds, and why your favorite books picked the voice they did. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most intimate option. The first-person narrator. This is the I voice. A character inside the story telling you their own version of events. Think The Hunger Games, The Great Gatsby, or To Kill a Mockingbird. Linguistically, this is built entirely around what's called persondixis. The word I anchors everything to a single point of view. You only know what that character knows, sees, or chooses to tell you. Nothing exists in the story except through that one filter. But not all first-person narrators sit in the same seat. Some are the central narrator, the actual protagonist, like Katniss in The Hunger Games, living through the main events firsthand. Others are peripheral narrators, a side character watching the real action unfold, like Nick Carraway in The Great Gatsby. Or Dr. Watson narrating Sherlock Holmes cases. A peripheral narrator gives the writer a clever trick. The reader gets some emotional distance and objectivity, while still keeping that personal, conversational I voice. There's also the question of tense. Past tense first person, like most novels, implies the narrator survived to tell the story, and is looking back with some hindsight. Present tense first person, popular in a lot of YA fiction like The Hunger Games, strips that safety net away. You're experiencing events in real time, right alongside the character, with no guarantee of how things end. And that last part matters because first-person narrators can be reliable or unreliable. A reliable narrator gives you the story straight. An unreliable one, like the narrator in Gone Girl or Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, might be lying, mistaken, or hiding something. And part of the fun is figuring out what's actually true. Writers signal unreliability through word choice, contradictions, or gaps in the story. Little linguistic cracks that tell you, don't fully trust this voice. Sometimes a narrator is unreliable because they're lying on purpose. Sometimes it's because they're a child, or mentally unwell, or simply too biased to see themselves clearly. Like the narrator in The Catcher in the Rye. Either way, first person forces you to ask a question no other narrative mode asks quite as directly. Can I actually trust the person telling me this story? Now here's the rare one, second-person narration. This is the you voice, where the narrator speaks directly to the reader, as if you are the protagonist. It's uncommon in mainstream fiction, but you've definitely seen it in choose-your-own-adventure books, interactive fiction, and novels like Bright Lights, Big City, which opens with the now-famous line addressing you as a man navigating a chaotic New York night. From a linguistics standpoint, this is a wild pronoun swap. Normally you refers to the listener in conversation, the person being addressed sitting across from the speaker. But in fiction, the writer hijacks that same pronoun to pull the reader into the story, blurring the line between audience and character. It creates immediacy and discomfort in equal measure. Because suddenly you're not just watching the story. You're implicated in it. There's actually a spectrum here. Some second-person narration is instructional, almost like a script, telling you exactly what to do moment by moment, the way a video game's internal monologue might. Other second-person narration is more accusatory or confessional, where the narrator seems to be addressing a specific you, who isn't the reader at all but another character. A technique used in poetry and short fiction to create the feeling of a letter or a confession. J. McInerney, Laurie Moore, and Italo Calvino's. If on a winter's night a traveler all use this mode in different ways, ranging from playful to deeply unsettling. Why is it so rare? Because it's hard to sustain. Being told what you're thinking and feeling for an entire novel can feel intrusive. Even alienating. If it doesn't match the reader's own experience. But when it works, it's one of the most powerful tools in a writer's kit. Because no other narrative mode collapses the distance between reader and story quite this completely. Next up, third-person limited. This is the he, she, or they voice. But with a twist. The narrator stays outside the story, yet locks onto one character's thoughts and feelings at a time. Think of the Harry Potter series. We follow Harry almost everywhere. But we never know what's happening in Dumbledore's head unless Harry is told. Or George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, which uses this mode chapter by chapter, hopping between different characters but staying locked to just one perspective at a time within each chapter. This is where a technique called free indirect discourse often shows up, where the narrator's voice and the character's inner thoughts blend together without quotation marks or he thought tags. Instead of writing "she thought the party was boring," a writer might simply say "the party was boring, obviously." No tag needed, just the character's attitude bleeding directly into the narration. It lets a writer stay technically outside the character while still giving you deep emotional access. This mode also gives writers a subtle kind of control over dramatic irony and suspense. Because you're locked to one character's knowledge, you experience surprises and reveals exactly when they do. No more, no less. That's part of why mystery and thriller writers love it. It lets them withhold information naturally, without feeling like they're cheating the reader. It's one of the most popular narrative modes in modern fiction. In fact, because it balances intimacy with flexibility. Close enough to feel like first person, but with the narrative freedom of stepping outside the character when needed. Then there's third-person omniscient. The God's eye view. This narrator knows everything. Every character's thoughts. Every hidden motive. Events happening in different places at once. Classic examples include War and Peace, Middlemarch, and much of Charles Dickens' work. Dickens in particular loved hopping between the minds of a dozen different characters within a single chapter, then zooming out to comment on the state of London society as a whole. Linguistically, this narrator often uses commentary and generalizations, stepping outside individual characters to make broader observations about human nature or society. You'll notice this in lines that start with something like, "It is a truth universally acknowledged." The opening of Pride and Prejudice, where the narrator isn't inside any character's head at all, but making a sweeping statement about people in general before zooming into the specific story. There's also a subtype worth knowing. Some omniscient narrators stay mostly neutral, simply reporting what every character thinks without much personal opinion. Others are what's called an intrusive narrator, one who actively judges characters, addresses the reader directly, or even jokes around, the way Jane Austen sometimes do. That intrusiveness is a stylistic choice, and it can make a narrator feel almost like a character in their own right. It's a powerful tool for big, sprawling stories with multiple characters. But it sacrifices some intimacy. You know more than any single character does, which changes how suspense and dramatic irony work. You might see danger coming that the characters can't, watching them walk toward a mistake in slow motion, powerless to warn them. The rarest and coldest of them all, the objective or camera eye narrator. This voice reports only what can be seen and heard, no thoughts, no feelings, no inner access to anyone. It's like a security camera with perfect grammar. Ernest Hemingway's short story Hills Like White Elephants is a famous example. Two characters have a loaded, tense conversation at a train station, almost certainly about whether to have an abortion, and the word is never once used. The emotional weight is entirely implied through dialogue and action, never stated outright. This mode strips away deixis almost entirely when it comes to internal perspective. There's no "I feel" or "she thought." Just observable behavior, what someone says. how long they pause, whether they look away. It's often compared to a screenplay. And that's not a coincidence. Screenwriting is basically forced into this mode by default. Since a camera can only show you what's externally visible, directors and actors have to communicate everything through performance. Because the script itself won't tell you what a character is secretly thinking. Hemingway in particular built a whole philosophy around this style, sometimes called the iceberg theory. The idea that a writer should only show the tip of the story on the surface, while the emotional bulk of it stays submerged, implied rather than stated. It's a demanding mode to write in, because every ounce of meaning has to be smuggled in through word choice and action alone. But it forces the audience to do the interpretive work themselves, which is exactly why it's often used for tense, ambiguous, or emotionally loaded scenes. The silence says as much as the dialogue does. Here's the part most storytelling videos skip. Narrator choice isn't universal across languages. In English, we lean heavily on pronouns I, you, he, she, they to signal point of view. But some languages grammatically encode how a speaker knows something, using what's called evidentiality, special markers that show whether information came from direct experience, hearsay, or inference. In languages with strong evidential systems, like Quechua or Turkish, a narrator can't just claim something happened. The grammar itself forces them to reveal how they know it. Which means, in those languages, every narrator is automatically a little more honest, or a little more exposed, than an English narrator ever has to be. Point of view isn't just a literary trick. It's baked into how some languages work at the grammatical level. So next time you pick up a book, pause for a second and ask, whose voice am I actually hearing? Is it a trustworthy eye, a God's eye view, or a camera that refuses to blink? The narrator you choose, or the one an author chooses for you, shapes everything about how a story feels. If you found this useful, drop a comment with your favorite example of a narrator done right. And subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden linguistics behind storytelling. See you in the next one.